Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. I hope you're all keeping very well out there. This week I'm going to help out someone who's a very loyal supporter. Fernand, if you're watching, this is for you. Fernand contacted me, he sent me a photograph which he wants to paint. It's a beautiful scene, but he's having a little difficulty, you know, going about this scene, and he wants to get my take on painting this particular scene. So I said, why not make a tutorial, help him out. This is the photograph. Quite a simple photograph, just, you know, a little field with a little bit of a fence and some lovely big trees, and this would make a lovely tutorial for trees. So I thought, why not try it? Make some lovely colourful trees, and I'm going to add a bit of colour into this as well, and maybe even do a lot of it with a palette knife at the end. So I thought that would make a lovely subject for us to try, and let's see if we can help him out and, you know, get him, you know, thinking about colours and all that kind of thing, and just see how I approach something like this. I know a lot of artists out there would paint a lot of detail in trees, and they go along and they paint individual leaves one by one, and they could be there for weeks sometimes. I'm not about that. I love impressionism and just creating an impression of a scene with nice loose brush strokes. So I think this will turn out quite nice, and let's put a little bit of kind of bluey shades in there as well for the shadows. So come on, join me if you would like to see how to paint trees using brushes and palette knives and fan brushes. This is a tutorial for you if you're having difficulty with trees and big bushes and stuff like that. This will be an interesting one. So let's go. I have a 16 by 12 canvas primed, ready to go. So follow me along if you wish. If not, I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you find it relaxing, therapeutic and informative. Thank you so much for your support, and do subscribe if you haven't done so. You're missing so much. Click the subscribe button and let's grow the channel. Grow. That's what it's all about. Helping people, the more the better. Let's go and have a bit of fun with this. Okay everyone, here is the canvas 16 by 12 upright. There is my palette. I'll tell you what colours I have. I've titanium white, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow, phthalo blue, magenta, burnt umber, some cobalt cerulean. That's a new colour. That was given to me by a very good friend. These are Old Holland, this paint. So cobalt cerulean or cerulean blue would be pretty close. Burnt sienna and lamp black. Now if you don't have some of these colours, it's okay, it's fine. You could just go to the nearest shade that you have. Okay, I have some thinners down here, and I'm just going to dampen the pointy brush, and I want to do just a quick couple of lines. Let's use burnt umber. Just a quick couple of lines for a quick sketch. Alright. Now I did prime the canvas once with a kind of a white undercoat primer. It's a simple water-based primer. I'm going to go around here with my horizon line, as they say. Fences coming along here, let's say, something like that. And the trees in here, and a big one here. That's all we need. Okay, just, and maybe a kind of a very rough suggestion of the outline of the tree. Okay, just like that. And we could separate the trees if you want. So this one down here could come around like that. This big one at the front can cut in front of that and just go right up like that. Okay, so we can know then where to separate the trees. This is just a very rough guide, okay my friends? And that's it, that's all I need to sketch. I'm going to just paint a nice light blue on the canvas. I know the photograph, it's kind of a whitey grey sky. I'd like to add a bit of colour into this painting. Sometimes I copy things pretty much as they are, but I think for this, I'd like to kind of just have a bit of fun, add a bit of colour into the painting. I think it would be nice. Let's just take some phthalo blue and a bit of white. Let's try some cerulean cobalt as well. A little bit of a greeny kind of a blue for a sky. What about that? Yeah, that's alright. That's not bad. Come on. I didn't wet the canvas. I don't think I need to. It's only a small area. So I'm just going to switch a bit of that blue on there like that, just very loosely. More white as it comes down. Now we could add a little hint of magenta in there as well if we want, and touch more cobalt cerulean. So going for a nice kind of a warm greeny pink It's a kind of a turquoise with a hint of a pink, so it's a warm, kind of very warm turquoise colour. It's difficult to explain, but you know, you kind of get the idea once it's done. You can just try and copy the shades I'm using as close as you can. And as I said, if you don't have those colours at hand, anything similar will do absolutely fine. Just kind of make it your own, really. Just cleaning my brush now very quickly and going right into some white on its own. And I'm dragging that kind of whitey blue just across there, in under the trees, right across over here. You see how very loose now I'm making this, very, very loose. I'm just having some fun with a brush. All right, let's just soften slightly across like that. Yeah, very loosely again. When you're painting something like this now, I'm thinking just loose, everything loose. All right, I'm going to take a small palette knife, go right into some white. I'm just going to go up and scratch a bit of white up there for some clouds. Look, there we go. Just, again, a bit of fun. Come on. Don't be shy. It's only paint. It can't hurt you. And if you make a mistake, you can fix it. Not to worry. Let's just have a bit of fun with the palette knife. Come on. We go a couple down there, and very loose ones around up there. Let's just kind of scratch it around. It's all in the name of having some fun. That's it. Nothing else. Okay? Soft blender brush. Very gently, just go around those. Just dab it here and there. Give it a little bit of a soften out. You can leave some texture if you like. That's absolutely fine. I think I'm done with that. The sky is finished. Don't think I need to worry anymore about the sky. This is the focus, the big trees. Now, let's get nice and colourful with this, shall we? When you look at a photograph and you see something just like green, you can get kind of lost in just green. I want to try something different. I want to try a nice deep purple first. And I know you're probably thinking purple versus a green tree, but for the shadows, we could go a nice deep purple. Magenta, phthalo blue, a little bit of black, and I'm going to kind of pick out the shadowed areas. Now that's very wet. I need to thicken it up a bit with some white, okay? Magenta, phthalo blue, even just those two colours would be fine. And look, when you get a kind of a nice pinky shade, let's take a touch of burnt umber. That gives you a nice deep kind of a grey as well. I just want to bring that down underneath, like so. Now you're probably not used to seeing me paint this loosely. I normally do take a little bit more time, but I think for painting like this, sometimes it's nicer just to go for it with a big brush and have a bit of fun. Sometimes that is a nicer way of painting. I'm going to go into some black now, and I'm going to go into a hint of cadmium yellow. So it's a very blacky green, and I'm going to just start kind of softening that here and there. I generally go from dark to light when I'm painting a tree. So that's why I'm going like this dark shade, bit more cadmium yellow perhaps. Soften that in to the purple very, very loosely. Look, I'm kind of flicking the brush around, doing all sorts of things with the brush just to get it to soften in to the tree. That kind of dark shaded area. Make it nice and soft. So we have a nice transition from one to the other. Then we can give the brush a quick clean, and I am going to just start going into some yellow. Let's say yellow and some Naples yellow. Now I'm just going to start going slightly lighter as it comes across into the light, and I'm going to flick the brush, look, just to kind of soften it through again. Flicking the brush, merging those colours together. Let's do the same with this one. And I'm kind of really focusing on sort of the underpainting. So this is really all just the underpainting. Most of this won't be the finished tree, if you know what I mean. Now, more cadmium yellow again. very loosely, flicking it around, softening it through the blue, dragging the blue out, bringing the yellow in. See what I mean? Just kind of softening them all together in a nice little way. Now next I'm going to take some cadmium yellow with some burnt sienna and start adding a bit of colour into these, a bit of warmth. And this is all wet on wet. Okay? Wet on wet, which is a lovely way to paint. It just really helps the colours merge together lovely. More cadmium yellow, another touch of burnt sienna. Over here, add a bit of colour into this one. Bring it up. The one thing you'll need to be careful with really is your shapes and keeping the shapes that you want and not losing your shapes. That's very important, I think. Keeping the shapes and, you know, not losing your shadows is very important as well. The next thing I'm going to do, so I have kind of a lot of it filled in. The next stage I'm going to do is really go deep and dark. I'm going to take some lamp black, some phthalo blue and some cadmium yellow. I really want to start going a very rich, bluey kind of a green. You see that kind of a dark shade now? I'm just going to kind of soften that at the shadow side. Again, flicking it very loosely here and there, look. Flicking it around. And I'm just going to start, you know, darkening the shadowed side. And that bluey purpley shade will mix together and you'll have lots of different shades and tones throughout the dark side of that tree. But remember, what I always say is, don't be too afraid to make your darks very, very dark. I took a bit of burnt umber in there now. Don't be afraid to make your darks really dark and your lights really light. That's what will catch people's eyes when they're looking at your painting. You know, keeping a very dark and a very bright, especially particularly for trees and stuff like that. It's a wonderful way of creating a lot of contrast. Because in the photograph, it really just looks like a mass of green, doesn't it? It's just a big mass of green colour. But, you know, we can improvise on that and we can start adding a little more to it. Okay, so that's what we're going to try and do. Now this could all end up going pear-shaped. I don't know, it might. I don't know. But so far, it's looking quite nice, isn't it? Let's get a bit of light blue now in the shade. And what I mean by that is I want to highlight the shadowed side. So in underneath those shadows, I'm going to take some cerulean blue and some phthalo blue, touch of magenta. I want to make this kind of deep pinky purple and just pop it in underneath there, look. So you can see how that immediately, it kind of brings the shadows to life, doesn't it? Just a little bit here and there. It really does bring them to life. So you're basically adding a bit of coolness into the shadows. You see how that automatically, it's a lighter shade, but it looks, when you look at the painting, it looks like a deep shade. But it's actually lighter than the colour we put on, which helps it stand out. But that is what I mean by highlighting a shadow. That's what I'm kind of getting at. Now I'm going to go right into some magenta on its own, a little bit of pink, and just splash a little bit of pink in there as well, just to warm it ever so slightly. You see the way I'm just being very loose with my brush. I'm using the corner of the brush and I'm just kind of flicking it and dabbing it and just moving it in all directions. Again, think very, very loose when you're doing all of this. So already we have a nice colour on our trees, don't we? And you know, when you normally look at a tree, you wouldn't see this kind of colour, but on a painting, it just looks quite interesting and warm and inviting, doesn't it? I'm going to go into some burnt umber and a bit of black, and just down around here, we'll say, I'm just going to add a little bit of that colour, again, just to emphasise the dark side of the trees, just a little bit more. See what I mean? Just a touch here and there. I think that's pretty much enough of the darks done. We can now start moving on to the lighter shades, we can use a brush or we can use a palette knife. It's completely up to ourselves. I think I'll start with a brush and I'll use the same brush. Just give it a good clean on some tissue and let's go right in to some bright cadmium yellow. Look, lovely bright cadmium yellow. And this might not even be enough. I might need more on my palette. Yes, I'll get more cadmium yellow and we're just going to use that and go directly with nice thick cadmium yellow on our brush. Look, let's go this side, little corner of the brush, and let's just kind of flick and dab and all that kind of thing. Let's just really start picking out some light yellows in there. Look, I'm going to go across into the shadow with the corner of the brush, just dabbing very loosely in a very kind of a random manner, okay? And what I'm doing is I'm picking up some of the darks then. So I'm going into the darks and picking them up and then kind of moving them back and forth between the lights and the darks. Again, in your mind you're thinking again all the time, just think loose, 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 very loose, okay? Bring some of that across there. We can start building up different layers of the tree then as we go. Let's try cadmium yellow and a little bit of white. That might be nice as well. Look, and we go over here to the light side of that tree and we just start adding that colour into the outside of the tree where it really catches the light. And this is where I kind of refine my foliage on the outside edge. You see what I mean? I just refine it a little bit more, not as loose. You see what I mean? I'm just really having some fun now with the brush and the colour and just dancing around very loosely on the canvas. And already that's turning into some nice loose trees, isn't it? Next we're going to move on to our palette knife, I think, for this next section. And we put some nice thick palette knife paint on the highlights of these trees. Okay, so let's grab a palette knife and do a bit of work with this knife and see what we can do. Okay, I'm simply going to go straight in and mix some cadmium yellow with that little bit of blue we have and some white. I'm going to make a very kind of a bright green, a kind of a whitey, almost like a whitey green. Okay, cadmium yellow, a little bit of blue and some white. Let's grab some of that on the knife and let's simply just have a bit of fun. Look. Let's just start scraping and flicking some of this colour out. And that's the technique I use when I'm just using a palette knife on trees like this. I simply just kind of flick it down and out. And that just gives, I think, a really nice effect. It really does. Let's go up here and add some up there. And it's very nice as well because you can leave the thick paint on the canvas. It really kind of stands out. It just makes an impact, I find. And already that's looking quite nice, isn't it? There we go. Let's put a little bit down here. It's just lots of thick foliage coming out. That's just trying to create that look. Now as it comes in, I'm going to warm it ever so slightly. Oh, you see that almost had a happy accident there. Burnt sienna and some cadmium yellow. Let's get some warm autumn colours through this. Just a little bit here and there. You see, I'm just kind of flicking my knife. I'm almost as well scraping my knife here and there as well, just to get the paint on. Look, you can even dab. There's so many different ways you can do this. Now, white, cadmium yellow. Go for some brighter shades. It's a very whitey shade. I just want to get the highlights just on the outside edges and kind of softening them in a little bit as well. Just try to remember, this is all a bit of fun. It's all, that's what it is. It's a bit of fun. We're trying to just create some nice kind of loose, abstract sort of trees. Very, very loosely. I'm taking some of the colour and I'm kind of moving it back into the shaded areas as well. A little bit out here, go back into the shade. Look, and go back into the shade and just do a couple of little flicks here and there. just to sort of merge them together ever so slightly. Now let's stop, stand back and take a look. Even at that, they're not bad. I think I'll leave them for now. We'll go down and we'll do our tree trunks. I'll take a small flat brush. Oh no, before I do the tree trunks, I'm going to just do this grassy area so we can get that in and we'll have that done then. Let's take some cadmium yellow, a little bit of phthalo blue. I'm going to go with a kind of a bluey, let's say a nice bluey green like that, yeah, a nice rich kind of a green. Let's fill that in first with this nice rich green. Phthalo blue, cadmium yellow, maybe a touch of Naples yellow as well if you want. Let's just thicken it up. Let's fill that in, nice thin layer. Let's cover all of this area with that nice colour. I need more paint actually, I need to get some more paint on my palette. When you're painting trees like this, you do tend to go through a lot of cadmium yellow, I find. A lot. Plenty out there now. Let's go, come on, let's have a bit of fun with this. I'll show you how to create some nice rough textured grass and stuff that you'd see in a field. So, it seems like a very luminous green at the moment, but we'll soften this out now with some colour. Let's start darkening with some cadmium yellow and some black. That gives us a nice, very kind of a dark, autumny type of colour. You see what I mean? Now because we're working on quite a wet canvas, this may be tricky. Just make sure and use plenty of paint. I'm just going along, darkening that, and in fact I think the fan brush might be a bit easier for this. So I'm going to move over to the fan brush just to get some texture and stuff like that on the grass. Let's dampen the fan brush. Let's go into some phthalo blue, lots of cadmium yellow, some burnt umber, and let's try some burnt sienna. Come on, let's just go for it. A nice deep warm kind of a green we have. Now let's just go, there's a bit of a shadow across there first, isn't there? Let's just deepen that colour just there. I might need a bit more yellow and even a bit of white just to lighten it slightly. And then I'm going to come down here and just kind of flick lots of colour through the grass. Look, very random, flicking it up, kind of going left slightly, right slightly, all of that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? I'm just making this a very random grassy area. I put some burnt sienna in there as well. So you can see how this just kind of makes it all look very grassy, doesn't it? Let's take some more cadmium yellow, a bit of white. I'm going to go up to the top up here, and I just want to go along the top, off in the distance, and just start roughing it up. Look, just dab, 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 dab. Just keep dabbing until you feel you have what you need. Okay, just dab, 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 dab all the way across. Make it nice and rough. This is only just an impression now. I'm just doing this just for the sake of the tutorial, just to show. That's all I'm doing. How you can just keep it very loose and get some nice texture at the same time. Okay, here we go. Dab, 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 dab. Let's clean the fan brush. I'm going to go into some sienna. And I'm going to just start dabbing some sienna here and there, just for a bit of colour, look. Just a little touch of it. Take some Naples yellow as well. Just a little touch of colour here and there through the grass. It doesn't need to be anything in particular. I'm just keeping it super loose. That's the idea, okay? This is just a very, very loose tutorial. Now I'll take some cadmium yellow a little bit of white. I'm just going to go up here and add a little bit of light to the land, off in the distance. Just to lighten certain areas here and there, look. And we can come down here, maybe add a little bit of it there. Just cadmium yellow on its own. Again, you can kind of see what I mean. It's just a very rough textured area. That's all I want to create, a very rough textured area. And that little bit of burnt sienna, there's something about it. I need to go over that with something, a little bit of green. It's a little bit too much perhaps. Now, cadmium yellow, it's a very light green with some white. I'm just going to flick some of those just to lighten some here and there. And at the same time, I'm just kind of softening a lot of it together, just to make it that little bit softer and not as harsh on the eyes. Okay, I think that's all right. That's not bad. Let's paint our tree trunks. I'm going to go with a flat brush. The tree trunks are kind of a mix of sienna first. I'm going to go with sienna first and Naples yellow. I'm just going to try that colour first. So let's go with this one over here. It comes down like that, doesn't it? And remember as well, you need to make sure these are nice and thick. They need to be able to support what's above them. Okay, that's what I find as well. If you paint your trees a little bit too thin, it can look like they're not strong enough to support what's above them. So paint nice thick tree trunks. I go into some burnt umber. As they go up, put a bit of shadow on them. I'm going to bring them down a little bit more as well. This is all just thick paint on its own now, okay my friends? I'm using just paint on its own. You see how I'm just being very loose with these, very loose. Now I need to go a little bit thicker with this one here. I think it needs to be nice and thick. Plenty of burnt umber in there. And same with this one. Plenty of burnt umber. Then a little bit of black. As they go up into the trees and the foliage, they get dark, don't they? They're nice and dark. Little touches of black. Let's just pretend they're going kind of through here and there. Now, I'll move on to a small pointy brush, and I'm going to just start putting some Naples yellow on its own, and just start highlighting some areas of the tree trunks. You know, there's no particular rule for any of this. I think just pick out little areas where you think the light may be hitting, and we can use our own initiative for all of this as well. Just little areas here and there. Again, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. This is only just an impression of the scene. That's all this is. So I'm not going to try and be absolutely perfect with all of this. Then we go to some black. I'm going to get some nice black in up there and in behind some of these as well. You can begin to see how it's just nice rich darks against bright lights, isn't it? Now, I'm going to soften these to together just slightly. Make it a little bit more pleasing on the eye, yes? Just a little. And once I get to the bottom, I'm going to just mix a darker shade for a bit of shadow underneath. Sit them down with a little bit of shadow, look. Little touch of shadow down underneath with the knife. Go right across, out of the scene. And immediately, they just sit down, don't they? Let's drag them down into the shadow as well. That helps them sit down a little better, doesn't it? Now we're ready for fences. We have a little row of fences there, don't we? They're quite nice actually. Let's put a little row of fences across here. I'll just take my small brush. I'll start with some Naples yellow and burnt sienna. This may not be bright enough now. I'll put the first one here like this. Okay. Bit of white even. So we're going nice and bright to begin with. And then we'll add some shadows and stuff onto these as time goes on. As they go way off, they get smaller and smaller and smaller, don't they? Something like that. Let's take some burnt umber with some Naples yellow and add a little bit of darkness to these. Then we get some burnt umber with black and we give them a nice dark shadow side. And you can see how this is all just very loose. Look, I'm just making a very loose impression. It's only for a tutorial, so it's just a very loose impression. Now let's get a palette knife. We're going to use this flat-edged palette knife. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow, Naples, and a little white. I want to get a very bright highlight on one side of these fences. So I'm just, now they're not the same colour as they are in the photograph, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to go like that, like that, just getting a lot of light on one side. It doesn't have to be perfect, as I said, okay? It's just an impression of some fences. That's all it is. Especially when you're using a palette knife, everything can be very sort of suggestive, if you understand what I mean. It can be, you know. You don't have to try and paint everything exactly. It can be just a kind of suggestion of something. Now, a bit of dark green, just help them kind of sit down. A little bit of a ditch there or something, you know what I mean? Just a little bit. And then we'll go into some bright colour. Cadmium yellow, a little bit of white perhaps, and just add a little bit of light here and there on some of them. And then soften them back into the grass slightly. You know, this is all just, again, an impression. I want to take a little bit of white on my knife and just pop a suggestion of some wires or something. It could be anything at all. Just a little suggestion of something. And I think for the final part of this, I might just like to add a couple of white suggestion of little flowers or daisies or something. It could be anything. Just one or two. Again, let's think about adding colour. little touch of colour. There could be small flowers here and there. Just as a pop of colour. We could even use some burnt sienna. And pop one or two of those. Could be different types of flowers, all that kind of stuff. It's just a lot. This is all just, again, as I keep saying, it's a suggestion. That's all it is. Now, how is that? I'm going to come in and just do a bit of work on this base over here. I'll take some burnt umber, some blue, and a little bit of yellow, and I just want to bring those down over the tree trunks a little bit. Come over here and just bring those darks kind of down and leave them fall downwards just a bit. Then I'm going to go into some brights. Cadmium yellow, a little bit of white, touch of blue. And I'm just going to again kind of reform some of the shape of some of the lights. I come over here and maybe just pop a couple on this side. I just want to soften the light into the dark a little bit more, if you know what I mean. Come up here and do the same, just again a couple of small light ones here and there, softening them together. And my friend, that is it. Now, it may look a bit funny having the tree going right off to one side like that. We could add another tree trunk if we wanted to, but I think what I might do is bring some of the lighter shades of green over here a little bit more, look. Just to make that tree look like it's going forward a bit more. But I'm afraid of ruining it, so I need to be very careful. You could probably even add an extra tree trunk here. That would make more sense, wouldn't it? So maybe we should. I don't want to kind of spoil the painting now, but I'm going to add just one more here, just to make it look more believable. Do you understand what I mean? Just to make it look a bit more like there's an extra tree here. And I think already it's starting to work, isn't it? I know it's not in the photograph, but you can interpret this and make it your own. Then we take a bit of Naples yellow, and we just come down here and add a bit of that in, just to, again, you need a light and a dark. When you're painting trees, it's nice to have a light and a dark on the tree. And let's just soften them together very kind of loosely and just mess it around, that kind of thing. Then grab some black, a little bit of black in there. And once again, soften this down into the shadow underneath. And let's just take whatever last bit of colour we have, a bit of burnt sienna perhaps, and just kind of sit those foliages down over the tree trunk, just to leave it disappear up. I think that's a bit better, my friends, isn't it? That last tree made all the difference. And look, I'm going to call this finished. There are buildings off in the distance, but you don't have to add those if you don't want to. Fernand, I hope you've enjoyed watching this. You know, keep it super loose, just have a bit of fun with it all. That's what it's all about. I never kind of worry too much about getting something perfect and looking exactly like a photograph. I try not to, because in my opinion it's nicer if it doesn't look too much like the photograph. Now sometimes mine does, my paintings, they look very similar, but I don't struggle to get it looking exactly like the photograph. So there we are, my friends, a tutorial on painting trees, and I hope you have enjoyed watching that. It has been a pleasure. A nice simple tutorial on trees, that even framed would look lovely, wouldn't it? A nice big chunky frame around that. Very, very, very happy with that. I hope you've really enjoyed watching me paint today. I know it's been a bit quick, but it was just really a tutorial to show you how you can just grab a big brush and just have a bit of fun and be very, very loose. You don't have to go into loads of detail with that kind of thing. So it's nice for a change. Fernand, I hope this helped you in your decision and how to approach it. I really do. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support as well. I really appreciate it. God bless my friends, and happy painting. I'll see you very soon. Take care.